97, we are talking law with Despina Priala for the final time this year. If you've missed anything from any of the programs in the last 12 months, in fact, any time in the last 3 years, you can go back and check them out any day, any time of the day or night on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Priala, Priala, and all of the videos that we've recorded in this series and the previous series as well, all available to you 24 hours a day. Just check it out on YouTube.
That's it. Thank you, Wayno. So now we are talking about Christmas parties. It's the party season, but this kind of applies, I guess, to any function outside of work or at your work, Despina. There are some things that especially our employers should be aware of this silly season.
Yes, so I thought it's quite apt, isn't it, and timely that we talk about employer obligations to their employees, particularly Christmas parties. So the employer obligations under the Sex Discrimination Act is very important to understand. Now, this is a Commonwealth Act. Okay, so it's been around since 1984. However, there were changes brought into place a year ago. So we've had a 12-month transition period to see how employers have gotten along with these new laws. So on the 12th of December last year, the Anti-Discrimination and Human Rights Legislation Amendment Respect at Work Act was passed. So it introduced important amendments to the Sex Discrimination Act that I just talked about before. So it's important, as I said, we're approaching Christmas and there's lots of Christmas functions and parties and dinners and all sorts of, social gatherings, that we talk about the employer's obligations, because the employer has always had an obligation to create a safe workplace environment as part of the workplace health safety laws. So that's always there. But these new changes introduced a positive duty on employers and other people conducting businesses to take reasonable and proportionate measures to eliminate discriminatory conduct in the workplace. And what we're talking about specifically are sex discrimination, sexual harassment, sex-based harassment, conducts that subject people to a hostile work environment, and acts of victimization. So it's about the employers taking reasonable and proportionate measures. And now it's a positive duty to do that. It's not just enough for employers to have an incident that occur and then just deal with the consequences afterwards. It's actually making employers think about what they need to do to put in their place of work suitable policies and reinforcing those policies amongst their staff about avoiding or eliminating this type of conduct. And if it occurs, what the employer is going to do about it.
Yeah, definitely. And you're saying there, like at the workplace, but the crazy thing about this, and I think we can kind of forget sometimes, is that when you're at the pub with your boss or your manager and all your colleagues, and it's the end of the year, that place, these obligations really are still happening, at that place at the end of the year while you're sinking a beer and doing all that stuff. So it's kind of strange, really, to think about it that way.
That's right. And I think it's important for employers to actually realize that that is the case, that just because you leave your office or your factory or wherever you work and you head on down to the local pub or the restaurant or wherever you are, that you no longer have to create a safe workplace and a work environment, and you no longer have to make sure that this type of conduct is eliminated. That is not the case. So if you are an employer, you have organized a Christmas party or Christmas function, even if you don't attend, which might be unusual if the boss doesn't turn up, but even if you don't attend, but you have organized it, it is called, the XYZ Christmas party or Christmas function. There's invites that have gone out. You need to take reasonable and proportionate measures to make sure that the conduct we talked about before is eliminated or avoided at all, costs. So, and how do you do that? Well, it's difficult if you don't attend, but if you've got to put people in place there to make sure certain things don't occur, because at Christmas parties and functions, obviously people are consuming alcohol, right? So that's a no-brainer. And the other no-brainer is when people drink alcohol and they do become, a bit intoxicated, it does reduce people's inhibitions, as we all very well know. And then certain conduct that you might not normally see in the workplace starts to come to the forefront, and you sort of look at someone and go, oh, that person was, generally very quiet, and now, they're jumping out of their skin. So, it sort of brings those situations perhaps that might arise that you've got to manage and deal with as an employer. And it's not just about employer-employee relationships either now with these laws. It's also covering everyone that might actually be at the function that may not be a strict employee. For example, contractors. So particularly with trades businesses, they might invite contractors along with their employees to functions. So it covers contractors, it covers volunteers. So maybe you had volunteers that were invited, query whether you would, and you might have trainees under an apprenticeship that are also invited. So, and typically those people are in the younger generation, not always. And I think that when you have your obligations that extend so far to covering all of those people, you really do need to be careful these days.
Despina, just briefly, is there some sort of cut-off point? Say, for example, you're having an after-works drink, you're having a party for Christmas, and suddenly, it gets to midnight and everyone decides to go onto another pub and whatever. At what point does it no longer become an employer's problem?
Yes, it's an interesting question. There's been a few cases in the last 12 months about that, and it very much turns on the facts of each case, as you can appreciate, because it'll come down to a number of factors that the court would look at as to whether the employer can be vicariously liable for the acts and conducts of their employees and whether that positive duty continues to extend. So say, for example, an employer organised a Christmas party and it had on the invite from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Okay. And very much the employer stuck to that. And the venue themselves said, okay, last drinks at 10 p.m. we're going to close, right? The bar's closed. So, and then the employer, makes sure that everyone gets home, right? And that everyone's left. But if on the spot the employer says, oh, forget about that, we're extending drinks to 11 p.m. at midnight, and then an actual act occurs, which shouldn't have occurred, that might be a breach of the legislation between 10 p.m. and midnight, and you've actually extended your party, well, you might very well be vicariously liable for the conduct of your employees and other people there at the party. But had you finished at 10 p.m., everyone's gone home that you can see. Other people have sort of lingered on in that venue or have gone somewhere else. Can you still be liable? And I think it very much depends on the facts and circumstances of that case, whether the employer has actually done anything to, I suppose, influence, what people were doing at the end of that evening or function, and what measures they took to try and avoid possible situations arising, like making sure everybody gets home safe, making sure they're all put in Ubers or cabs. Now, if the employer did do that, and then those people who got into those Ubers and cabs then said, you know what, let's just go to another venue and carry on.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, not to the knowledge of the employer. I think it'd be pretty hard for the employer to still be liable in that situation. But if the employer joined them and said yes, and, you're all texting each other and go, yeah, let's keep carrying on. Well, you got to be careful and have that in the back of your mind that you could still be liable for as long as that function or those people are continuing to party on.
Party on. Wow. Just be careful then if you are an employer. Thank you so much, Despina. That is it now for 2023.
That's a wrap. Yep.
Wow. Talking Law officially done skis for this year. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us every Thursday. We've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to say Merry Christmas to all of our lovely listeners, and we have a bucket of them, which I'm so appreciative of. And I wanted to say thank you very much for all your continued support. We absolutely love it. And I love hearing from listeners all the time. So please continue that for 2024. It's going to be a big year. I think it's going to be bigger and better and maybe in some aspects uglier. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see in 2024. We've got lots of laws that are pending to be passed, lots of laws that are about to commence that are going to change perhaps the face of property in Queensland. I hear we've also got a new premier that
We do.
yes may change things as well in our lovely state of Queensland. So we'll have to wait and see. But
Awesome.
yes, I'm looking forward to it. So everyone, Merry Christmas and have a safe and happy holidays.
And you'll be back early February.
I will be. Yes, we have a nice break, so that will be good. But yes, I'm looking forward to getting back in February. But definitely a well-needed break, I think, over the Christmas period.
Enjoy. Well deserved. Thank you so much, Despina and Wayne.
And we'll see you then.
See you next year, guys.
Are you confused about legal jargon? Do you need legal advice but don't know where to turn? Tune in to Talking Law with Despina Priala every Thursday morning at 8:30 on Radio 97. Despina, a leading lawyer with over 20 years of experience, will demystify the law and provide practical advice to help you navigate legal issues. Whether it's a family matter, a property dispute, or a business concern, Talking Law has got you covered. Don't miss out on this valuable resource. Tune in to Talking Law with Despina Priala every Thursday morning at 8:30 on Radio 97.